everyone. This is Sam Collins, your acupuncture coding and billing expert from the American Acupuncture Council. And I'm thankful for you to spending some time with me today. Please note the outfit, of course, today is Halloween. If you're not watching it on Halloween Day, certainly this is the reason for the outfit. When you have grandkids, you're going to dress up. So I've got a couple of topics to talk to you about, but I'm really proud to be part of the American Acupuncture Council and in specifically their commitment to acupuncture. Myself, along with Marilyn Allen, just got back from Korea, where we are part of the committees for ICD11 that has a very specific chapter for traditional medicine. We could not be more excited. And we're very proud of the American Acupuncture Council for stepping up to put us in a place that allows us to do this. So your malpractice insurance is not only your malpractice insurance, it's one of your best supporters, not only on a national level, but international. So let's go to the slides. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on. And of course, our opening slide always has our basic information of the council, our email, and so forth. But what I want to get towards is talking about what occurred some 40 years ago, something called Alma Ata. And what this was part of the WHO's International Conference in 1978, where there was a milestone where they wanted to create a greater public health. And they made a commitment 40 years ago that part of the public health should include traditional medicine. Now, look at how long it has taken for that to happen. But some 40 years ago, now at the most current WHO conference, which was in Korea, they're now bringing in ICD, but for traditional medicine. So Robert Jacob, who is a medical doctor, is the team leader for classifications and terminologies, specifically said at this meeting, traditional medicine is a component of healthcare and cannot be ignored. And that the ICD, traditional medicine part of is many health systems, and member states request it to be accounted and included. And really the emphasis and the reason for including traditional medicine is not just because they like traditional medicine, but traditional medicine is really a part of healthcare. It's integrated into so many parts of the world, and showing that it helps, it's part of the greater public health. But if it's not coded or not accounted, it won't count. So that's been the big issue in the push. So what we have, and you'll see here, it says better health coverage information. And I apologize for this slide, but this was taken at the conference. And it talks about better health information since Alma Ata. And you'll see things they want to address: health education, food supply, supply of safe water, maternal care, immunization, prevention and treatment of endemic disease, but treatment of common diseases and injuries. And this is really where traditional medicine practitioners really help to fit, because it frankly is much cheaper in many ways and as effective, if not more, than traditional ways. And when I say traditional Western medicine. So notice on this slide from WHO, it says on healthcare workers, including physicians, nurses, midwives, auxiliaries, and community workers as applicable, as well as traditional practitioners. So you can see this emphasis on a world level is really moving us forward. So now you can see, here's a picture from a couple years ago in 2016, where Marilyn Allen on the left and myself on the right, and some members from China, Japan, and China also. You'll see here the ICD11 chapter as it was being introduced and being pushed forward. So I want to give you a little bit of example of what it looks like or what's going on now. So this is the latest meeting, and this is what's called the Traditional Medicine Reference Group meeting, and this was a little celebration dinner. But the important part is, notice it says publication. And that's really important part. The publication means that this is allowing acupuncture to be recognized on a level where there can really be an accounting. And just to give you an update, these are leaders. This is Robert Jacob. This is Dr. Fox, who are all major leaders of WHO that are pushing through. They're not even an acupuncturist, but they are pushing for the traditional medicine. So what does this chapter look like? Well, they do things as disorders, if you will. So you'll kind of notice the traditional medicine follows things where you'll notice here it says dysmenorrhea disorder. So instead of it being in the way of just saying how Western medicine would say it, take a look at how this indicates: a disorder characterized by lower abdominal pain or pain in the lumbosacral region during menstruation. Well, that's kind of obvious, but notice it says it can be explained by emotional factors and environmental factors that lead to blockage of the thoroughfare and conception meridians, or insufficient blood or essence may cause malnutrition of uterine-related insufficient blood or essence. Now, to most Western doctors, they might take a kind of a jaded eye to that, but that makes sense, or is something that a traditional medicine practitioner would look at it in that way, and a way of accounting it, so it doesn't always have to fit. Now, these codes aren't going to be required to be used by traditional medicine practitioners, but the attempt is to better code symptoms and conditions, not just Western classification, but in this way, so it can account a little bit better. So that's an exciting thing to see, this type of thing being part of the chapter. Here's one for headache. And notice for headache does much the same. A group of disorders characterized by pain in the head can be explained by wind, cold, dampness, or heat entering the body, wind and fire or heat affecting the head, buildup of turbid phlegm or blood stasis, counterflow of qi and blood insufficiency, or qi blood or nutrition of malnutrition of the brain. Now, at the end of the day, it's still a headache. But again, this way of looking at it is how acupuncture treats. Acupuncture is treating not just a symptom, but the body's systems to make them better. And if they function better, often disease leaves. So this is exciting because we can see this change. The world is moving. Now, when is this going to happen? This coming March, there'll be the World Health Federation will be meeting and it will vote and accept it. There's no reason to believe that it wouldn't be, of course. There's a lot of support. So fully expect ICD11 to be taking place next year. Now, the unfortunate thing for the United States is we do take a long time to really move up to this. Realize that ICD-10 was used in the world as far back as the middle 80s, but adopted fully in 1990. And it did take us some 15 years. So do keep that in mind. However, there are some positive things. I want you to take a look here. This is from a company called Evacor. Evacor is a company that helps oversee many Blue Cross Blue Shield plans, particularly in the Pacific Northwest, but other areas. And in their acupuncture service guideline, they specifically indicate the headache, and you'll see the definition in Western, headache of musculoskeletal origin, such as referrals from soft tissue and articular structures of the neck, can be acute or chronic. But notice it then gets more specific into liver qi stagnation, excessive liver yang, qi and blood stagnation, heat in the stomach, or fire in the liver, gallbladder, meridians. The idea here is noticing even insurance companies are beginning to recognize this. Now you'll note it says these pathways represent causations for a headache within the paradigm of Oriental medicine diagnosis, not eligible for reimbursement at this point. But as the codes get introduced, this is a way of accounting for it. So we're beginning to see this. Now, one of the things I want to emphasize to all my acupuncturists out there, please always include this type of information. It's important because it separates you and gets an understanding of the difference of what acupuncture is. And acupuncture is a form of healthcare that doesn't just treat a pain symptom, but treats the body in restoring health. And the reason I make such an emphasis to that, while as exciting as ICD-11 is, we have other things going on because the world is also moving us towards something called International Classifications of Health Interventions. And you'll see just a little bit of it here where it says ICHI. These interventions are going to be 7,000 classifications of healthcare interventions. And I want everyone to notice in this ICHI protocol, which is going to be the international standard, not CPT, they are including moxibustion as well as cupping. This was a study done in Australia to see the effects. Frankly, the study didn't come out as well as the people who do cupping and moxa wanted, and they said there needs to be more study. But again, by having a code allows it to be studying in a way that it can be quantified and the changes. And of course, when there's a code, then of course we can work on reimbursement. Now, traditional medicine should be always aware of what's going on. And of course, this is a world issue. What's going on in the US? Well, dry needling. The American the American Chiropractic Association, along with the American Physical Therapy Association, came up with a new CPT code for dry needling that will likely be available to providers sometime in 2019, so this upcoming year. So all the pushing back and forth that you've heard about dry needling, what I will say to everyone, it is here because there will be a code at some point next year. They haven't published it yet, but it is coming. Now, the American Chiropractic Association of Physical Therapists representatives appeared in Boston this past September, working with the AMA CPT panel, where they presented an application for dry needling code that was eventually accepted. Now, I want to bear in mind, it wasn't just the ACA and American Physical Therapy Association that did this. There were groups of acupuncturists who were involved as well. But this new CPT code, I think the importance of it is this. It will enable the healthcare industry to better examine the overall utilization of dry needling and its associated outcomes by collecting data via the code. Hence, this kind of goes back to the ICD-11. You can't collect data for what you cannot account for. Now, this being said, let's talk about what do they consider dry needling. Dry needling, it says, like acupuncture, involves the placing of needles underneath the skin. And there are differences between the two approaches, as noted by this group. According to the ACA and the other ones, it says dry needling involves the use of solid needles to treat muscle pain by stimulating and breaking muscular knots or bands. Unlike traditional trigger point injections, dry needling does not use any type of anesthetic. Now, any acupuncturist will know one of the main effects of inserting an acupuncture needle immediately is reduction of muscle spasm. So certainly a dry needle will reduce a trigger point. The concern will be, is that the reason for the trigger point, and will that really get rid of the problem? Hence the difference of acupuncture. Now, according to the Mayo Clinic, this is what they had for the CPT committee. Traditional Chinese medicine or traditional medicine explains acupuncture as a technique for balancing flow of energy or life force known as qi. This is believed to flow through pathways or meridians of the body, and by inserting needles into specific points along these meridians, acupuncture has reported that energy flow will rebalance. And that's really the difference. Obviously, I think you will see definitely some improvements with person getting dry needling to a trigger point, but will it really balance to avoid the reason for the trigger point? Now, the excitement, I think, in a sense, though, is with this new code, it is a little bit different from what you've heard. So on the day of the hearing, the AMA CPT panel had two proposals, one presented by the Chiropractic Association of Physical Therapists and the other by an acupuncture group. And the other group supported outside acupuncture that trigger point acupuncture should be under the acupuncture code, which is a time-based code. And of course, there's a lot of battle back and forth. And so here's what the conclusion came up to. The AMA panel recognized the applications were similar, both from the acupuncturist as well as the physical therapy group, and asked all three groups to, with the help of a facilitator, come back the next day with a compromise. A third option was drafted that placed dry needling under the surgery code. So it's going to be in the 2.5 section probably as a non-time-based code, and cross-reference it under physical medicine acupuncture sections so coders could find it. It's important to note that not all CPT codes in the surgery section describe surgery, so don't be afraid that it's something you can't use. And they often will place codes in there. So you'll see this information here from this Dr. Bronston. Dry needling or trigger point acupuncture, though, under this new code will not be a time-based intervention. So it's going to be one fee, no matter how much time, how many needles. And according to this meeting, it says the acupuncture representatives agreed to the compromise. Now, my issue will be, where does this fit for acupuncture coverage? In my opinion, certainly it would appear that an acupuncturist could indeed use this code as well, in addition to acupuncture. Of course, that gets to be a little bit tricky in understanding, when are we going to call it dry needling when an acupuncturist does it? When do we call it acupuncture? And there certainly could be some differentiation. So the American Acupuncture Council, specifically Marilyn Allen, is beginning to do some work to make sure that acupuncturists will be certified to do this, whether or not it's going to be a course or a certification through NCCAOM, that's all to be seen. But we're really working hard in making sure that acupuncture is always represented. And it's one of the reasons the American Acupuncture Council, though it's your malpractice carrier, is always fighting for you to make sure that acupuncture is always going to be in the best light, but also make sure that there's coverage. So stay tuned. I will be giving more information on this as it comes. I expect we'll have something after first of the year. There's still a lot of pushback on this because with the information I just gave you first got published, it got retracted and they're saying they're waiting. So I've given you some information that was put out and then later retracted. But at the end of the day, we're here for you. The American Acupuncture Council, network specifically for seminars, digital coding are always a help to you. We're around. Take a look at our website if you need seminars or any other help. We're here to help. I wish you the best day and continue forward. And it's a promising day for acupuncture. Thank you very much.